So first to start, thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar. We're going to go over reporting.
Okay, so let's dive into today's topic. So, as you all know, we are going over reporting in inFlow. So, just to kind of give you a high level overview of what reporting in inFlow looks like and how it can be customized and how it'll give you back all the information that you essentially put in. So keep that in mind. One little disclaimer, just keep in mind that different businesses use inFlow for different reasons, and what you might need out of your reports could be completely different from each other. So what we're going to try and not do today is go super specific into scenarios and what reports you might need. Instead, it'll be kind of a general overview of where you can find certain things and then how to then further filter those for you. And we'll also later on be going over our report selection tool, which is something newer that we've brought in. And the reason for that is essentially to ensure that, if you have those questions where you want to see specific information, it essentially helps you find what report is going to give you that information. But we'll go over that a little bit later. But for the time being, we'll go over all of the available reports, but the more important ones, or the ones that we find are most asked about and the ones that we talk about the most. And then we'll go over how we customize those reports. So whether it's, customizing it by updating your columns, things like that, adding in your custom fields. And then we'll also go over, generating those actual reports and then exporting them. And then finally, Ilyana will take over and go over our amazing report selection tool. If you ever were interested in custom reporting and how inFlow does that for you and custom reporting as an add-on, we'll go over that. And then, as always, we'll end off on a little quiz just to make sure that everybody here was actually paying attention to all of the things that we were saying. These are a couple of reporting nuances. So you can filter your reports using the little wrench tool that we have. You can add multiple filters per report and change the filters if needed. You cannot see deactivated products in a report. This is just something I'd like to shout out. Just keep in mind the only place you can see a deactivated product is in your actual product page. You cannot see it in a report. So keep that in mind. And there's only one report that specifically allows you to see inventory that has zero quantity. And we'll go over exactly how to see that as well. And then, as we've mentioned before, and I'm sure a lot of you know, you can export your reports via a CSV and PDF formats. And then, without further ado, to start off with, I'm on our sample database and I'm using inFlow Manufacturing. Just keep in mind that if this is inFlow inventory and you'll just not have this tab. Outside of that, everything else is going to be the exact same. You can now get into reports two ways. One, you'll always find it essentially just below the pillars of inFlow essentially. So you'll see your reports here, and then you can directly go into whatever section of reports you want to see. Or the other way of going into it is this little button here, and it essentially shows you the same thing, except it's one below the other as opposed to just being laid out like this here. So from here, I'm going to start off with possibly one of our most generated reports, which is essentially going to be the sales order summary report. Now, to start off with, actually, before I go into that, just so you know, all of the main things that you're going to see is all going to be here under your main headings. If you, again, don't have manufacturing, you won't see this. And if you don't have stockroom, you won't see this. I am currently on a sample database, so I'm going to see all of the inFlow options, including serialized products, etc., etc. So just keep in mind that what plan you're on might also affect what reports you're seeing. Because, for example, if you're on an entrepreneur plan and you only have one location, you may not see reports that essentially allow you to see multiple locations. But yeah, let's start off with the sales order summary report. And I'm going to start off with this because one of our most commonly asked questions, especially when we're doing training, I find, is what happens if you don't invoice your order? Or you just want to see your order by due date, and this is where filtering makes a big difference. So you can actually just go ahead, remove that, and then just add in your order date instead. And then using this, choose the time frame if you need to. And just keep in mind with all inFlow reports, before you hit generate, make all of the changes you need to make. Because if now we start generating this and I decide, actually I want to add in a date paid as well, I'll have to regenerate anyway. So just keep in mind that, before you start generating your report, add in all the filters that you'd like to add. And while we're here, keep in mind that you can filter this. And when you filter this, you can actually go in and either search using this, or if you just want to actually see the order date, for example, as one of your columns, that's where the wrench tool comes in. So you can now customize this further with the wrench tool, including adding things like, your custom fields. So in this particular database, one of my custom fields, like, I don't have sales order custom fields, or I don't have too many of them, so this is not going to show up, but I'll show you one for like product details in a little bit. But yeah, so you can also then update this to just see what you want to see. So if you only want to see, fulfilled orders, you can do that, or just unfulfilled orders, you can do that. Just remember to uncheck all of this. And while we're here, this brings me up to the second question that comes up specifically with this report, is the difference between, or what owing is as opposed to like paid and partially paid. Just keep in mind with inFlow, paid, partially paid, all of that falls under what the customer owes you essentially. Whereas when you see owing, and the fact that you're seeing this in red is an indicator that this is how much you owe the customer, and this is usually only in the case of returns. So just keep that in mind. I know this can be a little bit confusing because of the verbiage, but just, when you see inFlow colors, it's everything to do with your regular. When you see a random red, keep in mind that's a little bit out of the ordinary. So in this case, it's only return related and how much you owe them. So before I generate this, I'm going to go ahead and remove the date paid because we don't need it. Now, keep in mind, this is an older database. This is just one of our sample databases. So if you see, orders from 2004, ignore it. Let's pretend it's 2025. Yeah? Thank you. Now, let me go into my personal favorite part of all of the reports, which is essentially stock levels, because I find that most of the information that you need when it comes to inventory would usually be here. Um, Now, for anybody who has QuickBooks or Zero, or you find that you need your inventory value, keep in mind that you just need to go and hit stock levels, inventory, and details. This is what's going to essentially give you your total value. And so you can essentially see that over here. So this will give you, and as every report that you have in inFlow, you can choose what you're going to see here. I have a couple of custom fields which I can add in if I wanted to. But then that means I'm going to have to search for those specific numbers in that custom field. But if I just want to see it as a column, I'm just going to add that here. And then we'll put it right next to product. And then as always, now that I've made all my changes, now I hit generate. Okay, so as of right now, this is essentially just giving me what my current inventory value is. And if I needed to essentially save this, I can go here, hit PDF or CSV. And those are the only two formats. So yeah, so this is one option and one thing that I always like to mention. The other one that's worth mentioning here is the only place that you can see zero quantity is going to be your inventory by locations. Now, I know a lot of people have requested that it shows up in other places, but just keep in mind that ideally, this is an inventory software. So we're only looking at what inventory you do have, not what you don't have yet. However, if you do need to see that, you can click this. Keep in mind, it's always going to be on off as a default. So you need to click on and then hit apply. So now you'll see items with zero inventory in stock essentially. So let's generate that so you can see the quantity as well. And yeah, so right here, if I had not done this, you wouldn't essentially see this product at all because it had zero stock in the main warehouse. This is also the amount of stock that I have here. Now keep in mind what you see here will also default or change depending on your unit of measures. And now let's get out of here. And then let's go into, so in purchasing, the one that we find comes up a lot is usually vendors. So if you want to see what the product list by vendor, this is a great idea. Or if you just want to see the actual vendors, you can do that. You can run this report. Keep in mind, you can also just see your list of vendors under your purchase orders here, but then this just gives you an easier exportable format if you at any point, just need to see every vendor and you need to, make some changes maybe. So it gives you an easy way to essentially get it out into CSV. Now, reordering. So this is one of those reports that comes back to my little inflows reporting nuances. Essentially, this is entirely going to depend on the information you've put in. Do you have reorder settings set? Yes, this is going to help you out then. If you don't have your reorder settings set yet, then I'd suggest kind of doing that, giving it a little bit of time before you run one of these reports because it needs data and it needs time to collect that data in order for it to then give you a better estimated duration for how long your inventory is going to last or what your recommended reorder points are. And now payments and accounting. Now customer payments is something that I know comes up a lot, especially when you want to see what their balance is, how much they owe you. This is one really good place to find it, and of course the another place that you can always find it would be on the actual customer profile, where you can export that as well. But then this is just going to again make getting it into a CSV easy for you, especially for auditing purposes, because we do find that that comes up. Now manufacturing, if you have manufacturing, this is just worth mentioning that both the variance report and the work in progress cost report are newer reports that were released a little bit earlier, I believe end of last quarter. So if you are using inflow manufacturing, it's kind of worth checking these two reports out because they are newer, and any feedback that we get on that would be absolutely welcome. And the same thing goes for stockroom. If you have stockroom, this is going to be a great place to see. If you don't have stockroom, let's just pretend it doesn't exist for the time being and go into the audit log, because the inventory movement log, which is all of our probably our combined favorite report. I might be wrong, but like Star Iliano, if you don't like, if you have another one, let me know. But I feel like this is the one that most of us go to for ease of use because you can see pretty much any transaction here. Because if we go in, we can see everything from, so if you have manufacturing, you can see put away, you can see picking. If you have stockroom, you can see the scanning. You can just see regular stock adjustments. You can see purchase orders. You can see pretty much any movement that has happened with your inventory. You can see using this report. And once again, similar to the inventory details report, if you are someone who uses either QBO or Zero and you need to find out why a specific adjustment happened, this is a helpful report. So we'd always suggest, essentially exporting this to CSV so that it helps you figure out exactly what exactly happened on that specific date. So this is a super useful one to essentially just keep going back to whenever the time comes. You'll actually see when it's my personal database, I always end up going, if you go into my recently generated reports, um, the you'll find that the movement history report is actually the number one here. And that's also a quick tip for anybody. If you are using certain reports repeatedly, so you find yourself once a week going into the same like sales order report, you will usually find it in your recently generated. So just keep that in mind. It's an easier way for you to, find the report that you've been generating again and again.
Laya, we had a really good question about that
Ooh,
report you just ran. They were asking if serial numbers can be included in this report. Do you have serialized items in your database that you can show the movement of a serialized product? This is actually a really good question because you're also seeing that, although we're inflow experts, when it comes to reports, there's so much data that it does require, us kind of clicking and playing around to see which report
okay.
is the best one.
Okay, so we do have a serialized item. Let's just use this one as an option. And then let's go into the audit log, inventory movement. I'm going to go into summary to begin with, and then I'm going to look for a specific product. So
It was raw. Oh, there we go.
there we go. Let's go into this guy. Okay, we have this one. And let us generate. Also, I'm so sorry if anybody's hearing some background meowing from me, because that would be my cat who's decided that he'd like to join this webinar. So let's just, if you hear meowing, pretend you don't. But yeah, E, do you want to actually use this as a way to look at the our reports generating tool, and then we can essentially generate the report when the time comes?
With the report with the serialized numbers,
Yep,
serialized
yep,
products, definitely
exactly.
we can actually select it for sure. No worries.
Okay, perfect. So let me do one thing. Let me just hold on to that then as an option for when we move into that specific area. But Actually, I think at this point, I might be done with essentially just going over the basics of, available reporting, um, customizing our reports. So we went ahead and customized it with both. Let's just go into details. So we customized it with both, using custom fields here if we need to specifically look for something. And then we also, can go ahead and add these options as columns before we generate. And then once we generate, because we're at generating reports and exporting reports. So we're just going over all of them together. We can then go ahead and save as a CSV if needed, which I can then open when the time comes. But yeah, so we've gone over essentially the kind of big basics or the major things that we wanted to go over. Do you want me to stop sharing so we can start going over the report selection tool, and then we can actually use that specific serial number question as a segue into that?
Sure, sounds good. No worries. Okay, you should be seeing my computer in a few seconds. Hello again, everyone. After Laya's in and outs of the reports and all the important information that is always good to have in mind when going over the report section, we're going to jump into what is our report selection tool. Before we actually see it, because there's going to be a lot of data in there, I just want to kind of call your attention to this tool, because it will allow you to, based on the inFlow fields you want to get information from, you're going to be able to select from the options that you're about to see, and the system will give you which report or reports will actually have that information. So if we go here, and this is the page, the report that the report selection tool that we were talking about. I know that Star already posted the link, but just so everyone can see, if we go to inFlow webpage and you go to support here, at the right side, you're going to find report selection tool, just so you're more familiar with the steps to get here. And pretty much, if we go here, we're going to find the available columns. So the columns are, of course, obviously, the columns of the reports. You're going to have them here split and divided by different categories, if you want to put it that way, or what I usually call like pillars of inFlow or areas of inFlow. So the product, sales, sales, purchase, customer, inventory, and admin. So it's plenty of information here on the right side. Those are the fields that we're going to check those or select those check boxes. And based on whatever information I select, I'm going to get here on the left side the solutions, or which reports, if you prefer, actually allow me to get to that information that I'm looking for. So let me uncheck everything. One tip here, if you're on a computer window, in a Windows computer, sorry, you can just click Control and find, Control F, sorry, and you're gonna have here this searching box at the top right, and that's serials. That's what I was searching for before while Laya was talking about. And why am I saying this? It's because it's way easier. Instead of like going one by one and having to read everything, it can kind of speed up a little bit the process. So for instance, serial, if I click or mark this checkbox, I know that if I want to run a report which will give me as a result or information any serialized items, I should run either the inventory movement details report or the product cost report. Any of those two, depending, of course, of what other information I might want to get, will give me the solution to my query, if we prefer to put it that way. I'm not sure if you want me to actually show the report or not. I don't have any serialized item, but I can create it very quickly. I really don't mind. Do you guys want to see any serialized item on the report section?
I think it would be helpful if we can show that.
Okay, no worries. So let's just go here real quick. This is also a test account. So since we are here, and this is like a bonus section of the webinar on the reports, we're actually about to create a new product. So if we go here to the top right, we're going to create a new item, as you may be familiar with. And for those who don't, this is how you can manually create a product. So I'm going to call this test serial item, just so I know I can find it easily while I'm running the report to selecting the item. So stock product, let's enable here the serial tracking, so it allows us to actually assign a serial number, a unique code, because this cannot be repeated across this item. So the serial number will be a unique code for each unit of this item. The correct way to do this, it's not the way that I'm going to do. We should always add this through a purchase order. You should never go here and do like a manual change. Let me just enable the number lock and then put the set serials. We shouldn't do this, okay? So the system can track for accounting purposes and all the correct movements. We should always add stock through purchase orders to actually have it the correct way. So I'm just going to randomly type in some numbers so we can have something in here. And we have right now 3 units of this item. I'm just going to add a random cost here, and I'm going to create very, very quickly a sales order so we can actually have the movement out of the system, not only the movement in, so you can see 2 different lines or records in there. So let me just create one real quick. Just going to select a random. This is all testing, so don't worry, we're not showing any information or private information or anything like that at all. So now this is the test item, test serial item. Sorry, I misspelled item, as now I just saw. But well, it's all right. You know, this is just a test. So
It's okay,
so
Eve. We're not here for spellings. We're just here for serials. It's fine.
and if anything, I'm not native, so I can always use that as an excuse. This is like a cool new thing since we're here. This is already new web sales orders. We recommend you to jump into the new design if you want to. You're gonna starting to see if you're in the old design, the legacy option, the legacy message at the top left. But go straight to the point. If you now click here, you have the ability to click on set serials, and it will give you this menu, this way more user-friendly menu or pop-up window that would allow you to select. We can click autofill, which will select the first one, or we'll follow the logic that we have in the system. As we are moving out 1 unit, of course, I selected 1 unit. And I'm sorry if I'm doing this very fast, it's just so we can actually then get to the next stages of the webinar. But since we're doing this, I think it's nice to actually see the full functionalities of the system. Let's just mark this as paid. Mark this as fulfilled as well. So it was moved out of our inventory. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sick. Out of our warehouse. Pretty much we have the traceability right now. We added the units into the system. We just created a sales order. So now let's just take a look so I don't forget the reporting. We're going to take a look at the inventory movement details report. So we can access from here, from the home page, or as Laia was also mentioning before, we have here in this collapsed menu, if you want to, I don't know, collapsed, this lateral bar on the left side, the report section. We just click here. We're going to get all the reports split and divided by sections. And if we go here to the inventory movement details, we're going to be able to select ours. I'm just going to select the specific product so we don't see here like a lot of information. But as I didn't select anything, I believe this, I hope this was exactly, fell under it was assigned automatically to the default category in the system because I didn't check while I was saving the product. So let's just generate the report. So the only thing that we have done so far was we selected our specific product so you guys can see here how a serialized item will look in a report. As a reminder, refresher, I know that Laia already mentioned that, but it's quite common to have those questions. You can have as many filters as the report offers. The same logic for the columns. Your custom fields can be used as such, and you can export and even use a pivot table later if you want to. So let's just generate a report in here. It will take a few seconds. So perfect. So we have here our serialized item or test serial item, ITM or something like that, if you prefer. Pretty much what can we see here? We're going to see here the serial number. So in the first 3 lines, it's the movement into the system. So we added those 3 units manually, right? I typed the serial number, the code that identifies each specific unit. So we have this one that then repeats here because this is a stock adjustment. That's what it's considered, the movement that I did, because it was not a purchase order, was I went and manually adjusted the number of units. So it's a stock adjustment from today. I did it in the default location. And every time, this is also perhaps extra tip, every time you manually change the quantity of the item, the system will create a stock adjustment for you. It won't show you like in the moment while you're creating, but it will still leave under the stock adjustment menu section if you prefer. And it will also show up in here whenever you're running a report, this or any other one that will show this information. And here at the end, in the quantity, we have based on what the movement is, either movement into the system or a movement out of the system, the positive value or the negative one. So 1 plus 1, if you want to put it that way, are positive 1 for the stock adjustment and -1 for the sales order. And this is pretty much one of the examples of information that we could actually access. So let's just remove this filter here. And let's now, for another example, because we just briefly touched on that, other things that sometimes are asked, even though like even within the system, if you go to a customer, a specific customer, you can print a customer statement, the same for supplier, but sometimes you might just want to actually just see the orders of a customer or a specific customer or a specific supplier. So you can easily go here. And for instance, this is the customer section, right? In our report selection tool. And let's just say, okay, we want to see a report in which we'll have the last order, sales total. Okay, it gives us this one, this report, customer payment summary, which will give us more information. Someone was saying something?
Yeah, Ileana, I was going to say, if you click on the customer payment summary,
it will take me to the.
It'll take you directly to the.
and you're logged into inFlow, it'll take you there. Less
Yeah,
steps.
yeah. Thanks so much. It's
one
just
thing.
it's not everything's automatic, and I just feel like a
It's
regular.
because we're so used to like clicking in and out of inFlow. But
Yeah,
also just keep in mind that, you know, at any point you need to unselect things, you can just hit the reset button there and then that'll unselect it for you. So you're not always going back and, you know, unclicking
exactly.
anything that you've clicked. So just keep that in mind. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. And trust me, we take all of the feedback that we get, give it to our product team, and we're always trying to push for our customers. So just
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So if you have a lot of things selected, you don't need to do one by one like I did with the zeros. Just go here at the top and click reset, and you're good to go to make another selection. And pretty much, this pre-selection that we did took us to the customer payment summary, which gonna give us like a result of all the payments that we received and the corresponding balance based on the order total and what was paid and what's left to be paid. So for instance, in here in our four fictional, I hope that's how we say it, fictional customers, we have here these orders that not this order, sorry, this balance of the different information. So this is pretty much what the information you're gonna see. The customer, if you click, you always see within inFlow when you have this small box with a arrow pointing up. This might have a proper name. Every time you click there, you're taken, like for example, like Laia and Star were mentioning on the report. So this will always take you to that specific section, product, customer, etc. So it's a hyperlink, pretty much. And you're going to be able to have a quick access to it. So just as we're here, we can filter this by the type of order, if it's fulfilled and fulfilled, status. So the same logic as Laia showed before. I don't want to kind of give you or overwhelm you with the exact same information. So that's why I think it's not much point in kind of repeating all this information. One good thing about this report is that you can, some reports, some in particular, you have some toggles sort of that you can select, like the showing zeros that Laia mentioned. And in this case, the customer payment summary, you can enable or not, if you want the report to show only customers that own you or not. That's pretty much it. So it kind of cleans a little bit. If you're just looking to, okay, I need to this week check a list of all the customers that are owing me money for an order, etc. You can just easily filter down by looking at this. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, any questions on the report selecting tool? Anything that someone might have asked in the meantime? Because I'm not looking at the chat, just so I can make it a little bit more fluid in terms of presentation.
We're actually okay right now, but I'd just like to kind of reiterate what Star said.
Mhm.
Inflow leaves breadcrumbs. That's the most beautiful way of like mentioning that. But essentially, just keep in mind that there's nothing you can do in the system that we don't that you can't then go back and look for. So it doesn't matter if your teammate did something. There's always going to be a way for you to figure out who did what. Just You'll just need to go into a team member report, for example. So there's always going to be a solution for pretty much anything that changes in inflow. You'll find it between move. Basically, your audit log, look at it as your best friend to find out what happens in inflow if you go on vacation for a week and you need to come back and things have changed. Go into audit log, you'll probably see what changed, who made those changes. We try and make sure that things are as transparent as possible because at the end of the day, we're helping people run their businesses. So transparency is key.
Yeah. So for just basically on what Lai was just mentioned, I went while she was explaining, clicked here on the team member tracking report, just like we can show you some examples. So here, and always keep in mind, not only you have columns, sorry, I don't recall if you for sure you explained this, but not only columns, but you can also group the information that you see here by different ways or sections, depending on the report. So here we have everything grouped by team member, just to kind of clarify why this more gray bars at the top or headers. And here, for example, the administrator, that's the name of that user in my account. This user updated a sales order, being this sales order in this specific day and time. Day and time, keep in mind that it's based on the computer's clock settings, sorry. So imagine you might be, if you would have access to my account and you would be in Canada, you would see a totally different time stamp in there. So just keep that in mind in case you have your business is running in different regions of the globe. You could be seeing something slightly different in terms of timing. And then here we see that the status of this order is this. What was done was updated the sales order. This default user, for instance, created a vendor. I created an Omega Toys vendor, which is a vendor that's still active. The same for the create a product, the 00303A, and so on, so on, so on. So these are just a few examples with gets created, updated, etc. Yeah, and I believe that we perhaps can jump into the next section of the webinar, just so we have time and we don't need to rush anyone. So pretty much after going over the reporting selection tool, which once again you can find on the website, at the top, support on the right side, you're going to have it. There's also another section that we want to go over with you guys today. So besides these built-in reports that come with inFlow that we just saw right now, we also have here, let me get to it, sorry, too many tabs open, what we usually call the professional services. And this is just, we're not trying to push you or anything like that, just so you know that it's an alternative of certain information that might not be available, as Laia mentioned before. We always try to do the best possible, but not everything can be available at all the time. And as much as we try to improve, there's different sections and areas of inFlow. We just did an update on the purchase orders and the sales orders, which brings new features to you guys. And we're working different other sections. There are small things that we sometimes, there could be like some shortcuts to get some information before it gets released as a feature or improved area of inFlow. And the reports have an area in the professional services in which imagine that you need to find or you need to have certain information specific that the current reports don't provide you. We do have professional services within inFlow, as I've mentioned already twice. What it is pretty much the ability for you to request, to check if it's possible, because we're not promising that it's possible or doable to achieve that final result that you might want, okay? But this professional services is pretty much a way of contacting us to request, if we go down this page, a customer report. This has a cost, okay, to be very clear from the beginning. And you would just fill in the form. We're going to take a look at it right now. But I just want you to see how you can actually get to the professional services as well. So if you go to support, as you can see, clearly we are from the support team. You go here to the professional services, and you're going to get to this page that we just saw. There can be different types of services, okay? As you can see here, data import, data cleanup, automation advice, etc. But focusing on what we're showing you today, customer reports. We have a few customers that actually not subscribe. It's like an add-on that is
Yeah.
a customer report. To put it more in a more exact term, it's an add-on that you can subscribe to, and one of our colleagues will check if it's possible to through SQL and all that technical work that I personally do not know or have the ability to move into. We will try to do their magic and see if it's possible. So here we explain that there's going to be a questionnaire, a form, if you prefer, that you can fill in so we can try to understand if it's doable or not. There's a free call in case that you want to double check with our colleagues. But pretty much here, so you're going to fill in your personal data, right? I mean, our contact, not personal data. And here
Your
with,
inflow personal data. Let's look
yeah,
at it that way. Yeah.
I always
Your
like to
inflow data. Yeah.
personal data. It's not that we want to get anything from you. It's just like the regular contact. So we can reach out to you and see if it's possible to actually have this custom report. So here we have a few questions. I'm just going to read one or two. I invite you to take a look at it later on. But pretty much here, if you had to come up with a name for this report that you actually want, so something that you're not able to get right now, what would it be? Because that would always help us to kind of filter down, narrow down what to understand what you want. And the specific filters that you might want, so you could get this or that information that you're looking for. This is just like a brief mentioning, because then we know that it's not that visible, and just wanted to highlight as a solution for sometimes something that you might not be aware of, and that's pretty much it. So thank you so much once again for joining today's webinar. Remember that like this webinar and any other ones, you're going to find them on our webinar section. It's like an in-depth approach to a topic, a feature of inFlow. Can be quite useful if you're looking to explore and develop the usage of a certain feature of inFlow within your company. Feel free to share all your feedback as Star just posted there. Any feedback, feature requests, questions, notes, support@inflowinventory.com, and we'll be here to help you the best way we can.
Thank you again, everybody. Hope you all have a great week and a good rest of your day. And if you need anything, we're here. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Have a nice day.